Hello everybody, Tyrone the God 3 here, and welcome to Dragon Ball Z Saga Reviews. This is part 5 of the Dragon Ball Z Saga Reviews, the final part, and we will be reviewing the Buu Saga. Now I know what you're thinking. Why are you so unenthusiastic about it? It's probably the best saga, although for some not so great but still good. Yeah, I'm more in that category. Not so great, but it's Dragon Ball Z, so it's all right to me. But it has problems. Let's just get into the plot summary, okay? Because this saga's a thing. All right, so basically, this saga begins with after the events of the Otherworld tournament, which that's a whole like filler arc in itself, but it's like only a few episodes. I may touch on it in one video. Just to, it'll be a short, like 5-minute video just explaining the fight between Goku and Pygon. It kind of segues into this because of the whole tournament theme, but whatever. Anyway, the saga basically begins as we see adolescent Gohan. I say adolescent because he's too young to be considered an official adult, but he's too old to be considered a teenager like he was when he fought Cell. So I'm just gonna call him adolescent Gohan. So we begin with adolescent Gohan, and at this point, Gohan is no longer homeschooled. He's going to a school known as Orange Star High School. And while he's at Orange Star High School, he actually meets some very interesting characters. Now, this is where most people are immediately turned off by the Buu Saga. It was at this point right here. Gohan being in school, facing school-like difficulties, and the introduction to his alter superhero ego, the Great Saiyaman. Well, how do I feel about this? I'm not so bad about it. I thought it was a pretty funny part of Dragon Ball Z. Here's the thing, you guys. Dragon Ball Z is clearly a fighting anime. It's action anime all the way. But the thing about it is, I really like the moments where things are peaceful, too. In fact, a large amount of Dragon Ball Z I like doesn't even have anything to do with fighting. Don't get me wrong, the fighting is great, and it's what draws most people in, and I love it. But there's moments of peace that we have to sort of, like, sit through. I mean, come on now. Who doesn't love the episode where Goku and Piccolo were driving cars? Isn't that awesome? Yeah, so I just liked the Great Saiyaman moments. I liked the moment where he did the rap and everybody was embarrassed. I mean, like a lot of people get embarrassed by how Gohan turned out, and some are like really pissed about his personality as Great Saiyaman. But I think that was the theme of it. Even the citizens in the city are kind of bizarred out and weirded out by how Gohan acts because they know that he's weird, and you got to take into account this kid is homeschooled. Yeah, he's socially awkward all the way. I apologize to those who are homeschooled and not socially awkward, but you gotta remind yourself where Gohan's coming from. He's not coming from hanging out with a bunch of teenagers on a day-to-day basis. Most of his friends are adults, and most of them die in battle. Yeah. So with that all being said, Gohan gets used to everyday life, meeting characters like Sharpener and Eraser. Yeah, you see what they're going with this? And he also meets another character known as Videl. But interesting enough, before Videl, there was actually one girl he did go on a date with because he was blackmailed. And that was a thing that was going on too. Gohan would get blackmailed because women would use his secret identity as Great Saiyaman and try to use that against him. Unfortunately for him, unfortunately, she didn't know that the Great Saiyaman thing was Gohan's secret. It was a bare underwear thing. Kind of funny. Anyway, Videl is a character that's introduced that makes things change a bit. For those of you all who don't know, Videl is actually the daughter of Hercule. Yeah, Hercule, the great champion Hercule from the Android Saga, who fought off against Cell and pathetically lost. But he did, however, take the fame for beating Cell after Gohan, who officially beat Cell. Since there were no Z Warriors around in the area to claim that victory, Hercule went ahead and took it. The Z Warriors seem not to mind, as, the paparazzi and all scientists and things won't be all over them trying to figure out how the hell they pulled off such a feat. So anyway, once that's all said and done, Videl tries to investigate Gohan's secret identity as the Great Saiyaman because she uses this as a way to blackmail Gohan into entering the World Martial Arts Tournament. She wants Gohan to enter the World Martial Arts Tournament because she feels like a fight between the great champion's daughter versus a former champion's son would make for a great grudge match. Yeah, you can tell right now that Videl's a bit tomboyish and rowdy, but she is a good fighter, debatably stronger than her father at this point because she has the ability to use some form of ki thanks to Gohan's training. Gohan accepts this, but Videl also blackmails Gohan into teaching her how to fly. I guess you could say that this is Gohan's first official girlfriend, or at least that's how Chi-Chi sees it. From here, we also get introduced to another character in this saga known as Goten. Goten is Goku's second child who Chi-Chi was pregnant with shortly around the Cell game saga. I'm guessing she wasn't showing until after Goku left. He's about a year younger than Trunks. And while this was all taking place, Goten is shown to have a special gift, the ability to transform Super Saiyan at age 10. Yeah. Trunks can do it too. We learn that Trunks has grown up at this point too, and this is the Trunks that most people don't like when you compare him to the future Trunks. Mostly because this Trunks is more spoiled. This Trunks is known as Kid Trunks, what most people call him. And then Goten and Trunks are usually hanging out together. They both have the ability to turn Super Saiyan because they were training in the park. Well, Goten learned how to transform Super Saiyan because Chi-Chi was training him. Yeah, Chi-Chi training him is what turned him Super Saiyan. I'm gonna sit here and say because Vegeta and Goku were much stronger in their conceptions that they were able to become Super Saiyan a lot quicker than the others. Maybe it's a hereditary trait. Anyway, moving on. Each of the warriors are training for the World Martial Arts Tournament as we see that Gohan spread the news that the World Martial Arts Tournament is taking place. Because of this, all of the Z fighters train in order to go into the World Martial Arts Tournament, and we get a message from Goku that he's allowed to come to Earth for the day of the World Martial Arts Tournament as well. This gets the Z Warriors more pumped in order to train for the upcoming World Martial Arts Tournament, and within the time period, Gohan teaches Goten and Videl how to fly. Yeah, the kid can transform Super Saiyan, but he can't fly. Think about that for a second. Anyway, the day of the World Martial Arts Tournament arrives and Goku comes back. Oh, also fun note, Krillin has let his hair grow. It's a really poor character choice, but they did it. Anyway, once Goku lands back on Earth and everyone hugs him and loves him and, welcomes his return, we also get introduced to two other characters around this point. Some mysterious purple, silver-haired character known as Supreme Kai, as well as his assistant Kibito. It's at this point that we know nothing about Supreme Kai or Kibito, and we get an ominous look at them to see whether they're villains, heroes, who knows. Piccolo discovers that the Supreme Kai is the Supreme Kai and chooses not to fight him. Once they learn of his legendary Supreme Kai status, they immediately back off. Two other suspicious characters enter the World Martial Arts Tournament too, and their names are Spopovich and Yamu. However, the tournament kicks off not immediately at the adult division. The tournament kicks off at the child's division, where Goten and Trunks have to enter. They easily are able to wipe out a large majority of the characters that are in the World Martial Arts Tournament, kid-wise, but then it leads up to them fighting against each other in the finals, which is a really good fight, actually. However, the fight ends within Kid Trunks winning, and it's only because Kid Trunks tricked Goten and wound up breaking one of the rules that they were, well, actually multiple of the rules that they set before the World Martial Arts Tournament. 1, no energy blast. 2, don't go Super Saiyan. And I think flying was probably a rule. I don't think it was really enforced, though. So, when that's all said and done, the adult division begins. And, Android 18, Piccolo, Krillin, I believe Goku and Vegeta are the ones that are entering in the adult division, as well as Gohan and Videl, obviously. When the tournament goes to take place at first, things are going pretty smoothly, and the roster actually looks pretty good, with Goku fighting off against Vegeta right off the bat. Yeah, I was excited when I heard this too. Unfortunately, around the middle of the tournament, when Videl is fighting against Spopovich, Gohan has to step in, or almost step in, because Videl ends up losing, but in probably one of the most brutal ways I've ever seen in a martial arts tournament in life. Spopovich basically has a grudge against Videl because of Hercule beating Spopovich way back in the other World Martial Arts tournament. How did Spopovich get so strong? Nobody knows, at least not yet. So, this becomes a lot more than just a World Martial Arts tournament once we see that Spopovich and Yamu's intentions are much more darker than winning this tournament. When this all goes down, however, Gohan winds up fighting off against Kibito. Kibito asks Gohan to show him his true power, and Gohan ends up transforming Super Saiyan 2. Once this winds up happening, Spopovich and Yamu wind up absorbing Gohan's energy. Once they end up absorbing Gohan's energy, they fly off and immediately leave the tournament. Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Krillin all fly off in order to see what the commotion was about, and then Gohan gets healed up and follows after while healing Videl via a Sensu beam. So they all fly off, and then this is where the saga finally gets its plot. They learn from Supreme Kai that Spopovich and Yamu are being mind controlled by a wizard named Babidi. This wizard named Babidi's plans to absorb all of the strongest fighters in the world's energy, which is why they were at the world tournament, in order to give that energy to a being known as Majin Buu, a being that was created by Babidi's clone, not son, not father, like the anime said. It's actually a clone known as Bibidi. You can see what they did here. Bibidi, Babidi, Buu. Yeah. So anyway, Bibidi created Majin Buu and then ended up getting killed by Majin Buu later on. Then he had a clone known as Babidi. Babidi is going to try to take all of the energy gathered by the world's strongest fighters and give birth to Majin Buu, or rebirth, if you will. It's up to the Z Warriors to stop this before it happens. When the Z Warriors finally land in the wasteland area, also accompanied by Gohan and Kibito, Videl goes back because she can't really handle the flight. They end up seeing that Spopovich and Yamu are giving the energy to Babidi. However, what ends up happening is that Babidi winds up killing off Spopovich and Yamu using his magical powers because they failed in order to get more fighters for gathering energy, even though they did gather quite a bit of it. At this point, we're also introduced to the Demon King known as Deborah, who immediately discovers that the Z Warriors are hiding in the area, and he goes off to kill them. He only winds up killing Kibito, but he ends up turning Piccolo and Krillin both into stone at this point. The Z Warriors try to fight him off, but Deborah uses this as a way to segue to gather up the Z Warriors' energies and use them in order to power up the fuel for Majin Buu's resurrection. So when Deborah ends up going back into Babidi's spaceship, the Z Warriors then quickly follow. Supreme Kai tells them to be cautious because all of the fighters that are in Babidi's spaceship are probably one of the most gruesome and powerful fighters in the universe. He was wrong. They're not. Once the Z Warriors go inside the ship, well, Z Warriors, I mean Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta, go inside the ship, they compete in what's probably the most pathetic henchman fights I've ever seen in my life. The first match is Vegeta versus Pui Pui. Pui Pui does not seem like a challenge to Vegeta in any means necessary. However, things change when Babidi uses his magical powers to transport them to his home world on planet Zoom. This means the gravity's been increased by 10 times. Okay, I lied. It didn't really change the situation. Vegeta still curve stomps Pui Pui with no problems. The next fight is against Goku versus Yakan. Goku ends up fighting Yakan in Yakan's home world, which is completely dark and void of light at all. Goku's supposed to be at a disadvantage here, but he uses his other senses in order to quickly dispose of Yakan. And he also has the ability to transform Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 as well. So this doesn't even seem like a challenge either. Goku winds up powering up so much to the point where Yakan absorbs too much energy and blows up like a balloon. The third fight does get a little interesting though, because at this point Gohan is fighting off against Deborah. Now it is important to note that Gohan's debatably a lot weaker at this point than he was when he fought against Cell due to his lack of training and more of his focus on studies and dates. So at this point Gohan's weaker, but with his given power he's just about even in terms of fighting off against Deborah. This makes for a pretty decent fight. However, it doesn't end, unfortunately, because Deborah learns of Vegeta's aggravations. At this point, Deborah tries to use this to his advantage. He quickly retreats the fight and informs Babidi of Vegeta's negative influences and the hidden dark ambitions. Because of this, Babidi tries to use these to his advantage and try to reawaken the negative and dark influences within Vegeta's heart. While this is all happening, the World Martial Arts Tournament still takes place, with the remaining fighters that were in the World Martial Arts Tournament competing in what's known as a Battle Royale. The Battle Royale takes place and Trunks and Goten actually want to enter in, so instead of watching, they go in and knock out Mighty Mask, a fighter that was supposed to be in the tournament in the first place, and wind up dressing up as him. They end up making it through most of the rounds completely easily in the Battle Royale, and then they fight off against Android 18, which is a really good fight. However, it ends when Android 18 discovers that it's both Goten and Trunks, and they immediately get disqualified. Then Android 18 goes ahead and makes a fall so that Hercule can win the tournament, but Hercule owes Android 18 a lot of money because of this. Meanwhile, we cut back to the actual plot. When this happens, Vegeta winds up turning Majin Vegeta because of the reawakened negative and dark influences that were in Vegeta's body. After this, they teleport back to the World Martial Arts Tournament for some reason, and Majin Vegeta winds up destroying like half of the arena. This angers Goku and he transforms into Super Saiyan. At this point, Goku's ready to fight Vegeta. However, he doesn't want to fight Vegeta around all of these people. Supreme Kai tries to stop this madness, but Goku even tries to threaten Supreme Kai so that he can get out of the way. Yeah, this gets really dark. Supreme Kai then moves because he knows that he can't stop the fight between these two, and they end up teleporting to a wasteland area. Supreme Kai and Gohan try to stop Majin Buu before he's released. Goku and Vegeta wind up fighting each other, and this is the highlight of the Majin Buu saga right here. A lot of great techniques are used. The fight is really great. The fight lasts about 2.5 episodes, and it's really good. And even the Dragon Ball Z Kai version does this fight correctly with its new orchestrated music. I really love this fight. You can check it out in both the original Dragon Ball Z and in Kai. It's some great moments are in this fight. This is probably one of the best fights in Dragon Ball Z, period. Good fight. However, because of this fight, Goku's at Super Saiyan 2 while Vegeta's at Majin Vegeta, which is basically a negative Super Saiyan 2. And they end up fighting each other. And when they end up fighting each other, they cause a lot of damage to each other because of all the energy that they're outputting, which is enough to charge Majin Buu up to the point where he's at full power. Gohan desperately tries to stop Majin Buu from coming out, but it doesn't work. Majin Buu comes out and he's basically what a lot of people didn't really think he would be. He's fat, he's tubby, he's childish looking, he loves candy. What ends up happening at this point is that Majin Buu makes quick work of Deborah because Deborah feels that Majin Buu was a failure. Deborah ends up getting killed, and then Gohan and Supreme Kai try to fight him, and they get their asses whooped. At this point, Goku and Vegeta's fight comes to an end when Vegeta knocks out Goku by tricking him into thinking that they were going to work together to fight Majin Buu. It's at this point that Vegeta tries to fight Majin Buu himself. And for a while, he's actually doing a really good job. And then we learn that Majin Buu's regenerative powers are too much, and Vegeta has no choice but to kill himself via final explosion. This wipes Buu out, or at least what we thought. Because the boar is dead, Piccolo and Krillin actually return back to normal, and Goten and Trunks return back because they were at the battlefield for a short amount of time to help Vegeta, but Vegeta knocked them both out to get them out of harm's way. Piccolo then takes them back and states that the only way to fix this problem is to train Goten and Trunks to a level to where they can fight Majin Buu. It's at this point that Goku finally wakes back up from after all the commotion and learns of the situation that's gone down. He then returns to the others and informs them that they could have used a technique known as fusion. What is this? It's one of the staples in this saga, and it's a continuing motif that allows two fighters of equal size and strength in order to combine their bodies to create a powerful warrior. Goku wanted to do this technique with Gohan or Vegeta in order to fight off against Majin Buu. However, the situation made it so they couldn't. Mr. Popo then suggests that Goten and Trunks would be excellent candidates for the fusion technique, as they are almost the same size and they are almost about the same power. So Piccolo trains them as well as Goku in order to master the fusion technique. They then try to gather the Dragon Ball so that they can restore all the damage that Majin Buu is doing to all the people. It's at this point that Goku also learns that Gohan is not dead. He's actually at Supreme Kai's home planet, pulling the Z-Sword, a tool that could be used in order to kill Majin Buu once and for all. He pulls the Z-Sword and starts to train with it. At this point, Goten and Trunks have trained up to the point where they are almost at equal power. Goku winds up fighting Majin Buu to keep him at bay long enough for them to get the Dragon Radar. Goku then introduces us to a third form of Super Saiyan transformation known as Super Saiyan 3. What's the motivation behind this one? There is none. He actually learned this one off screen. It's kind of stupid. This is where Super Saiyan transformations for me started getting a little ridiculous as well. Because, God, do we really need a Super Saiyan 3? Regardless, he puts up a good fight against Majin Buu, but then he has no choice but to power down because, Super Saiyan 3 takes a lot out of his body. It's at this point that what ends up happening is Goku has no choice but to go back to Otherworld, and he winds up meeting up with Gohan. They train with the Z-Sword for a while, but Gohan ends up breaking the Z-Sword. However, instead of it being a bad thing, it's a good thing. There is an elder version of the Supreme Kai known as Elder Kai that was trapped in the Z-Sword for a while who agrees to unlock Gohan's true potential. With this said, Gohan ends up getting a training session consisting of him sitting down. Anyway, while all this is taking place, Goten and Trunks have finally mastered their powers and they're able to fuse into the Gotenks. While this is happening, though, Majin Buu has actually agreed to not kill for a while and ends up meeting up with Hercule. Yeah, Hercule's attempting to kill Majin Buu. This is supposed to end in failure, but what actually ends up happening is quite the opposite. Hercule winds up befriending Majin Buu, and then this causes Buu to stop fighting and cause no more harm. However, things make a turn for the worst as Majin Buu and Hercule's pet dog B ends up getting shot by a robber. All the evil that was in Majin Buu separates from him and ends up taking him over, which causes him to turn into Super Buu, a much more evil being of Majin Buu that ends up killing every human on the planet using human extinction blasts. Well, every human except Tien, Chaozu, and Hercule. Hercule because Majin Buu's influences just won't let the beam kill him. What ends up happening then is that Super Buu ends up challenging off Goten and Trunks in a fight in the hyperbolic time chamber accompanied by Piccolo. Goten and Trunks wind up fusing into Gotenks, and for a while they're getting their asses kicked. They get trapped because Piccolo blew up the area thinking that there was no way that they could be saved. What ends up happening then is that Gotenks learns how to transform Super Saiyan 3 and breaks the dimension so that they can leave. Gotenks ends up fighting off against Super Buu again, but the fusion wears out because fusions play too much. Yeah, I don't like fusion characters because they play around too much. Anyway, what winds up happening is that Gohan returns back from his training, now at an unlocked potential state, much more powerful. He makes quick work of Super Buu, however, he doesn't kill him because Super Buu winds up blowing up the entire area. What they think is basically over. However, he uses this as a trick in order to absorb Goten and Trunks while they were at Gotenks form, and then ends up becoming more powerful. He also absorbs Piccolo due to his knowledge and strategy of battle. This causes them to fight off against Gohan, and for a while it was even, but due to his knowledge in battle, he was able to overpower Gohan. So when all hope seems lost, Goku needs to think of a plan. Elder Kai then states that he gives him Patara earrings. What these earrings do is cause fusion. If one wears one on the left ear and one wears one on the right, if they fuse together, then they'll be much stronger than the I can't remember the alien name, but I know that it's stronger than the original fusion method. So Goku tries to go down there in order to fuse with Gohan. At least that's the plan. Tien even winds up intervening for a while. Yeah, I don't know why Tien's exactly here, but it's cool that he is. However, he ended up getting quickly disposed of. Goku tries to fuse with Gohan, however, Gohan, like an idiot, drops the damn earring and ends up getting absorbed by Majin Buu after Majin Buu's Gotenks fusion wore off. So at this point, Buu is way stronger, and his only option is to fuse with Hercule. That is until Vegeta is chose to come back to Earth just so that he can fight Majin Buu because he's one of the strongest fighters. At this point, Goku and Vegeta squabble for a bit about the fusion because Vegeta's pissed about Goku turning Super Saiyan 3 and his sacrifice being in vain. However, they do wind up doing the fusion successfully and becoming Vegito, easily one of the most powerful characters in the series. Vegito makes quick work of Super Buu at this point, but they don't kill him because they have to get absorbed. They want to get absorbed so that they can go in and free Goten, Trunks, Gohan, and Piccolo. Which, while they're inside of Buu's body, there's a lot of hilarious antics that happen. And for a while, there's some really good moments in here between Vegeta and Goku, but they end up getting their butts kicked by Buu's subconscious. I don't know. But Vegeta winds up pulling the Fat Buu's pod out, which was there. Since he removes the Fat Buu's pod, Goku and the others end up escaping with all of the people still intact. And then what ends up happening is that Buu transforms again, but not into a Super Buu or an Ultra Buu or anything. His power actually goes down a bit, and he transforms into Kid Buu. Now you're thinking, oh, he's weaker this time. They should be able to beat him, right? Wrong. Kid Buu is a lot more evil, twisted, and destructive, and reckless than the other Buus, which makes him debatably more dangerous, not more powerful. Just keep that as a note. Kid Buu wastes no time destroying the planet Earth with his planet burst attack, and Goku doesn't have enough time to save everybody, but he does have enough energy and time in order to save Hercule and Dende. Yeah, I don't really know why the hell this happened either. What ends up happening, though, is that they have no choice but to fight Majin Buu and signal him over to the Supreme Kai planet. Goku and Vegeta wind up powering up so that Buu can follow their signal here before they destroys any other planets in order to get to them. Once they're there, the fight for the Earth finally comes to a somewhat conclusion. Goku ends up fighting him first at Super Saiyan 2, and I gotta say, I like Goku's fight against him at Super Saiyan 2 more than Super Saiyan 3. I don't know, the fight just seems more fluid to me and looks better. At Super Saiyan 3, the fight is good, but there's moments like them biting each other that I really didn't like. It's at this point Vegeta also admits that Goku is stronger than him. He finally admits that Goku's the best fighter around. So with that all being said, Vegeta buys Goku some time, and then Hercule goes in the fight in order to try and stop things as well. And this means that Kid Buu can't fight Hercule because of Fat Buu's influence. Because of this, Kid Buu ends up spitting Fat Buu out, and what winds up happening is that they all end up biding time for Goku to use the Spirit Bomb. They use the Dragon Balls in order to wish everybody and the Earth back. Once everything is brought back to life, they all give energy to Goku in order to make a Super Spirit Bomb. Hercule causes even more influence for the Super Spirit Bomb, and Goku launches the thing. Kid Buu ends up fighting off against it, but then they give Goku more energy thanks to the third wish from the Dragon Ball. Kid Buu is immediately destroyed, and Goku wants them to fight again. Because of this, Kid Buu ends up getting reincarnated some years later. Dragon Ball Super is probably in here somewhere. Into Oob. Goku and Oob wind up fighting each other, and it's a really good fight. So once that, and Fat Boo's actually a good guy now. So yeah, he's part of the Z Warrior crew as well. Once this ends up happening, Goku ends up fighting Oob. He agrees to train with Oob in order to teach him how to master his powers. And at this point, we get the ending to Dragon Ball Z. Now, how do I feel about this saga? Well, there's a lot of things in the Majin Buu saga that I have mixed feelings on. What I mean by this basically is that do I like this saga? It's my least favorite. I'll say that right now. A lot of people will probably be wondering, well, why, Tyrone? All the fighters are stronger here. There's some cool scenes between Goku and Vegeta as well as Majin Buu and things like that. Then we also get introduced to a lot more Super Saiyans and people go even levels beyond that and the destructive force of it all. Here's my problem with the Majin Buu saga. The Majin Buu saga carries what I like to call lost potential. And it happens a lot. Even from the very beginning, we see the World Tournament and the roster for the World Tournament. Doesn't it look like it would have made for a really cool World Tournament? I mean, each of the fighters that they were supposed to fight each other before it got interrupted would have been for a cool damn tournament. I would have been really interested to see this. But do we see it? No. It ends up getting interrupted by this Majin Buu bullshit. But then you think, okay, ooh, new villain. This'll be awesome. The Z Warriors all get to fight again, and they get to fight off against henchmen, and things will get interesting, right? No. The henchmen suck. Pui Pui sucks. Yakan sucks. Deborah, he doesn't suck, but he leaves the fight. The only good part I can really savor from this entire saga is Majin Vegeta versus Super Saiyan 2 Goku. Super Saiyan 2 is my favorite transformation, so to see it being used in this fight was actually really cool. And to see these two fighters go at it, two fighters they haven't fought for real since the first saga, and their fight this time around is way more destructive and way more cool and just way more awesome. This was probably the only moment in this saga I can really savor. Everything else was more or less just blah. I also like the Goten versus Trunks fight, oddly enough, but here's the thing about Goten and Trunks as characters since they were introduced. I like Goten. I really don't care for Kid Trunks. Obviously because future Trunks exist and proved to be a much better character due to his suffering and loss that he experienced during his timeline, this Trunks comes off as more spoiled and bratty. However, I do think that Trunks and Goten share good chemistry. They're a lot like Gon and Killua from the Hunter x Hunter series, and that's what I appreciate. The thing about Goten and Trunks, however, is that they're always together. You rarely see any moments with Goten. We know enough about Trunks, at least from what our knowledge of Trunks gives us, but we don't get enough about Goten for real, except for that moment where Super Buu stomps on Chi-Chi after he turned her into an egg. But other than that, we don't really see much about Goten. Goten never really has his own character. He's more or less like he's a smaller Goku. That's more or less what the story portrays him off as. Chi-Chi doesn't even get on him to study for real at all. Now that I start to think about it. But anyway, there's a lot of other lost potential. Gohan's supposed to use the Z-Sword in order to fight Buu, but instead, Elder Kai shows up. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, Gohan gets his unlocked potential. Unfortunately, it's useless. Gohan doesn't wind up killing Buu, so there was no point in that. Goten and Trunks end up turning Super Saiyan 3 into Gotenks, but Gotenks doesn't kill Super Buu, so there was no point in that either. And then Goku turns to Super Saiyan 3. Okay, so maybe Goku's gonna beat him. Nope. Okay, Goku and Vegeta fuse into Vegito, so Vegito's gonna beat him. Nope. What beats Buu then? The Spirit Bomb. What? You mean the thing that kills every other movie character? Yep. Oh my god. It's the worst ending to a saga I've ever seen in my life. Are you kidding me? This is awful. I don't like the fact that a generic ass spirit bomb is what finishes off Majin Buu. Now granted, I gotta say Majin Buu didn't really have much of a character to him. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, what about when he was Buuhan and Bootanks? He was Cell. They took Cell's character and copied and pasted him. More specifically, Perfect Cell. They copied and pasted his character onto Buu. And I didn't care for it. it's at this point I realized that the Buu Saga was basically Dragon Ball Z sort of running low on the idea factor. This is definitely not my favorite saga. In fact, it's the worst saga. I prefer Garlic Jr. better than this because this saga is a lot of wasted potential. And it's a shame, really. This saga could have actually had the potential to be one of the greatest sagas in the world. But they make the main villain as childish as hell, which I know that was supposed to be the theme, but it doesn't come off good at all to me. And then when they finally get him down to something that's somewhat menacing, Kid Buu's only around for about, I want to say 8, maybe 9 episodes. I do gotta say that this saga did do a good job developing Vegeta. I will say that this saga did a great job in making Vegeta a much more likable character and definitely went into Vegeta's character arc. This is a nice closure for Vegeta. Remember in the Frieza saga where Piccolo was flashing back to all the fights and stuff that they've been through and the things that he had to deal with Goku? They basically do that again with Vegeta, only Vegeta's is a lot better because, artwork and everything have got better since then. So this saga definitely did Vegeta justice. It made him more mature, and he's a fully realized good guy after all the tribulations he's gone through. So I will say that it did good in that account. But other than that, a lot of this is just wasted potential. So, that is the end of the Buu Saga reviews. What am I going to do next in the Dragon Ball universe? Well, Dragon Ball Super's coming out on Sunday, so I can't wait to do that review. I'll see you all then, everybody. Till Dragon Ball Super, Tyrone the Guy 3